Welcome to the Daily Insider here on VegasInsider.com. I am Kevin Rogers for Tuesday, April 13th, and a lot to go over here as we head into tonight's action, looking back at Monday's action in both Major League Baseball and the NBA. And just to remind you that we will be giving away a week's worth of free picks here on the Daily Insider, and what you need to do is just two things, and they're both free. Subscribe to our channel at VegasInsider.com on YouTube, and so be a subscriber there, and also if you're not already with Vegas Insider as far as having a user ID. If you do, that's great, you're set. If you don't, go to this big yellow register button, click on register, and fill in your information. You go to free membership. Remember, free, F-R-E-E, free. You fill out the information here, and you will be eligible to win a week's worth of picks from any handicapper you want in one sport. Now, the key is, how do you do this? You have to leave a pick on our live chat on the channel or on the video for today. You leave your name, your user ID, make sure you're a subscriber, and you leave a best bet for tonight's action. And it doesn't have to even be a side or a total. It could be a first quarter in the NBA. It could be a first 5 innings in Major League Baseball. And if you're a winner, we're going to pick randomly a winner and give them a free week's worth of picks from Vegas Insider. So make sure you register, you have a user ID on VegasInsider.com, and also that you are a subscriber to our YouTube channel, and you'll be all set. So we look forward to seeing what your best bet for the night is in Major League Baseball, the NBA, and NHL. So we will remind you again later on during the Daily Insider. Now, let's take a look at last night in the NBA to begin things. And we will start with, actually, we're going to go from the bottom up here because the big news coming out, in case you missed it, Jamal Murray of the Nuggets out for the season, torn ACL. Suffered in last night's loss to the Warriors, so a big blow for Denver as they will be missing one of their top players. Remember what Jamal Murray did last year in the playoffs, totally blew up in that first round against Utah and had a great postseason. The Nuggets went to the Western Conference Finals, eventually lost to the eventual champion Lakers. And the duo of Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, obviously both of them, one of the best duos in the NBA. And now Jokic will have to do it all alone because Jamal Murray, torn ACL, non-contact, he's done for the season. Nuggets lose to the Warriors 116-107 at Chase Center last night. You see that third quarter, Golden State outscored Denver 43-22, so the Warriors playing a little better as a road, or a home dog rather, beating Milwaukee recently, beating Denver, and the Warriors trying to get back into that race for that play-in the Western Conference. Now you have the expanded playoffs this season, so they're right in the mix there, Golden State, trying to get back in it, and obviously Denver. They were not going to win the Northwest because Utah's built such a big lead, but a huge blow for them as Golden State picks up the victory and the game stays under the total thanks to the 41 points scored in the fourth quarter. The Suns hold off the Rockets 126-120. So Phoenix, after they blew out Washington, they struggle with Houston. And the Rockets, they continue to be competitive. I know that they are not going anywhere this year. They're rebuilding, but they end up with the big fourth quarter, actually big second half, because they were down by 23 at halftime to the Suns, and they had the big second half to get the cover. So that worked out for anybody that backed the Houston Rockets. The Pelicans had a huge first quarter and a first half as they hold off the Kings 117-110. This game got interesting late. Sacramento was within 4. De'Aaron Fox had a couple opportunities on three-pointers and missed to get it to 1. So New Orleans, who had not been good with no rest this season, they end up beating Sacramento. They get some revenge for an earlier home loss to the Kings. Kings continue to struggle. They're on one of their losing streaks again. And New Orleans now, again, the slow start really hurt them. But you have Zion healthy and Brandon Ingram healthy. Pelicans could win in the play-in game. I mean, if you get them there. I don't know how far they go in the playoffs, but in the play-in situation, they obviously would have a good chance. Memphis ends up knocking off Chicago 101-90 as the Grizzlies come back in the fourth quarter to outscore the Bulls by 15. And Chicago, who had not been good with no rest, we talked about it on yesterday's Daily Insider on how they just had, since the All-Star break, they were not good on no rest. They were blown out in some of those games. And Memphis, off of a tough loss to Indiana the night before, that was a good bounce back for the Grizzlies, losing to the Knicks and losing to the Pacers, but now beating Chicago, a couple of Eastern Conference teams in a row. But Memphis really needed that one as they beat Chicago by 11. Big upset of the night, the Washington Wizards, down 9 after 1. They go into Utah. They hand the Jazz their first home loss since December 31st, 2020. First home loss for the Jazz in 2021. We're laying 10.5. Wizards beat them by 4. And you got to give Washington credit for, look, the ups and downs Washington's had this season, but they've beaten the Lakers, they've beaten the Nuggets, they beat the Jazz, they beat Golden State on the road. They've had a lot of quality at Portland. They've had a lot of quality road wins against the West this season. And they come back to beat Utah, who is on this stretch now where they pulled away from Sacramento on Saturday, laying 11.5, won by 16. Lose this game to Washington, and now they get Oklahoma City coming up tonight. So they're playing a lot of non-playoff teams, and that's where you could stumble the most, where you're not really motivated against teams like that. So the Wizards, a really good road win, beating the Jazz as 10.5-point dogs. The 76ers over the Mavs last night. Porzingis didn't play. Philadelphia continues to play very well, and they're going neck and neck with Brooklyn atop the Atlantic Division. But as you see, Philadelphia was up that entire game over Dallas, and they win it by 18. So the Mavs lose back-to-back at home to the Spurs and to the 76ers. The Spurs, they outscore the Magic. You see 28-16 in the first. It was, the Magic were up by 2 or 3 early, and San Antonio went on this big run and then just never looked back. And San Antonio this season in 2 meetings with Orlando totally blew them out. And good for the Spurs because they went through this tough stretch where they lost a couple games in overtime at home to Atlanta and Indiana. They got blown out by Cleveland at home. They go to Denver, lose a pair of games to the Nuggets. Then they end up beating Dallas. And now they get a team like Orlando who's obviously in rebuild mode. They traded away everyone. And the Spurs took care of their business. And San Antonio's still in that mix, for the play-in game and all that. So that's a game you can't lose, and San Antonio didn't, and they pretty much dominated Orlando last night, covered as 7-point favorites. And look at that, fourth quarter, 67 points to go over 216.5. So Spurs Magic has a crazy fourth quarter to go over. Nuggets Warriors, you can't get enough to get over in that one. That's what happens. The Knicks end up pulling away from the Lakers. Big third quarter, outscore LA 26-16. They win by 15, 111-96. That game barely finishes over thanks to 58 in the fourth. But the Lakers, off that huge win over Brooklyn a few nights ago, that number dropped. Kyle Kuzma came back and played for the Lakers last night. And the Knicks, they finally get one, against a quality team. And granted, no LeBron, no AD, but the Knicks had been beating, they beat Memphis a few nights ago, but they really hadn't beaten a lot of quality opponents, and they had lost a lot of close games to the likes of Brooklyn and Philadelphia, Boston, and they get this one against the Lakers last night. That's a game you got to win if you're the Knicks. You really do. So the Lakers now, as we shift over to Tuesday's action, the Lakers, a 2-point underdog against the Hornets tonight, and Charlotte off a really tough loss at home to Atlanta on Sunday. Trae Young didn't play for the Hawks in that game, and Atlanta was up big. Charlotte came back, took the lead, tie game late. The Hawks end up winning by 4, and that race in the Southeast, the top 3 teams are playing tonight, and you see the records. Atlanta 29-25, the Heat at 28-24, the Hornets at 27-25. So obviously very important games the rest of the way for those teams in the Southeast. Orlando and Washington way back. So a 3-horse race for that top spot in the Southeast. And The Lakers beat the Hornets earlier this season with LeBron in the lineup. Now Charlotte laying 2 against the Lakers, and LA with no rest. But Charlotte of late, they've done a good job of winning off of a loss. Beat the Spurs here, beat the Wizards, beat the Pacers, beat the Thunder. I know some of those teams aren't great, but the Hornets at least playing a little bit better and not falling apart off a loss. The problem with Charlotte is they're just banged up right now. That Gordon Hayward's out, LaMelo Ball is out, and they're playing these teams like the Lakers are still a good team. Look, even without LeBron and AD, they're still a very good team. You saw what they did at Brooklyn a few nights ago on Saturday night. They're still a good team. But they're still down a little bit. They're still playing with no rest. And the Hornets have the Cavs coming up, but then it's going to get tough for them. Going to Brooklyn, who just blew them out. Getting Portland, even at the Knicks, isn't easy. At Chicago is not easy. So Charlotte really can't afford to. They really can't afford to have a lot of slip-ups moving forward. And then you look at the Lakers. It's the final game of a long road trip for them. So they're playing with no rest. And last time the Lakers had no rest, they beat the Cavs at home back on March 26th. Now, as far as no rest on the road, the Phoenix game, you throw this one out because LeBron, that was the first game they played without LeBron. So you got to throw that one out. But as far as playing with no rest on the road, this long road trip, lost at Detroit by 15 after losing to Philly by 1. Beat Oklahoma City. I mean, I don't know how much really stock you take into playing with no rest if you're the Lakers in the situation against the Hornets. Atlanta plays Toronto and Tampa, and that line swung. Toronto was laying 1. Now it's up to 2 for Atlanta, and that's got to be if Trae Young plays. And Trae Young didn't play in that Charlotte game, so that's assuming now he's going to play in this one tonight. And last time Atlanta and Toronto played, Atlanta won at the buzzer. Tony Snell hit a 3. That game in Tampa. And Toronto was up big in the fourth quarter. Atlanta came back and tied, and Toronto really botched things up towards the end of that game. So Atlanta's 2-0 this season against Toronto. And the Raptors, who, again, they're going through a very tough season. And the Hawks laying a few points here. Atlanta's played well. There's a reason why Atlanta's laying 2. Simple as that. Clippers laying 3 to the Pacers in that game in Indianapolis. And LA beat Indiana earlier this season. Kawhi Leonard, saw reports he's not going to play, the foot injury. We'll see if that changes. Paul George returning to Indiana. And the Pacers, off this win over the Grizzlies a few nights ago in Memphis, that's now 3 straight for the Pacers. And they haven't won 3 straight if you look back at it. It really is a long time. The last time the Indiana Pacers won 3 in a row was the first 3 games of the season. Like, that's how long it's taken them to win 3 in a row. They've had injury issues to deal with. Look, beating Minnesota or Orlando is not exactly any reason to celebrate, but when you've been struggling as much as them, you got to take the wins that are there. And that was a good win at Memphis. Now you get the Clippers at home tonight before you go on the road for 3. And the last time they played the Clippers, they were blown out, but also they had injury issues in that game. They lost by 33 points, 129-96 to LA back in mid-January. The Thunder and the Jazz, we just brought up Utah and them losing at home inexplicably to Washington last night. Now you get Oklahoma City. You're laying 17.5 against Oklahoma City, which is insane. And I know the Thunder have totally crapped the bed recently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of 10 they've lost. I feel like everybody has had these long losing streaks, and the slump busters Toronto. You know that Houston ended their 20-game skid against Toronto. Oklahoma City's lost 9 of 10. The only one came against Toronto. And this team won the finals a few years ago. Anyway, Oklahoma City, you see that, was at 6 in a row, ATS, 0-6 slump. And in some of those, getting 11.5, getting 13.5, getting 12.5, getting 10, lost all of them. So Oklahoma City, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go back. 5 consecutive losses as a double-digit dog. Before that, They had 4 consecutive covers back in early February as a double-digit dog. So Oklahoma City, who, again, dealing with injury issues, it's not really an NBA team. And this is what the concern was with the Thunder this season. And they had a nice run for a bit. They were competitive. They just don't have the horses. And you're going against Utah. I'm not advising laying 17.5, but you could see Utah winning this game by 20-something points. But no rest for the Jazz. Lost at home to Washington. I never like taking teams as heavy favorites off a loss because the expectation is they're going to just play well just because. But maybe they don't. Better games out there, I think, of the NBA tonight to pick. The Suns and the Heat from Phoenix. So the Suns continue their homestand, and they did win at Miami last month. So now the Heat off of the win at Portland back on Sunday night. Good win for them. And Miami's played well. This is now, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-1 the last 7, losing to Memphis. And they had problems with Memphis this season. But 6-1 after the 6-game losing streak. So the Heat playing better. The loss to Phoenix, lost by 10 back on March 23rd at the American Airlines Arena. And the Heat face a Suns team. Suns haven't been laying 3 in a while. And we know they've been excellent against the spread in wins. That number's kind of died out a little bit because they have 2 wins against Houston. They didn't cover. Granted, they were laying a lot. They had a win against Chicago. They didn't cover. They had a win against Charlotte. They didn't cover. So that number's kind of gone backwards. I think it was 29-0 against the spread, the first 29 straight-up wins for Phoenix. So they covered all their wins. Now that number's kind of taken a dip a little bit. And they're laying 3 here. Last time they were laying 3 at home, 3 or less. They were getting 2.5 against Utah, that game they won in overtime last week. Last time they were laying 3 or less. I mean, it's been a little bit of time. Boston back on February 7th. Last time that they were laying less than 3. And even before that, laying 2 to Golden State. Laid 1 to Denver, but Devin Booker didn't play in that game. Laying 3 to Toronto. So they were a good, laying 2 to New Orleans. Look, as a short home favorite, Phoenix has excelled. But that was a different team December 23rd against Dallas, December 29th against New Orleans, because they were good, but they weren't threatening to be the best team in the West good. So now you're facing the Heat in a revenge spot for Miami. We'll see if the Heat are a look. And by the way, look at that. Side and money all on Phoenix. Boston and Portland, they are meeting up tonight out at Moda Center in Oregon. And the Blazers laying 1. I have a couple notes on the Blazers here I want to go over. I have the best bet video up on VegasInsider.com under our free picks. If you don't take a look at it, I will tell you what I said in that. Just because you're here watching and we appreciate it. Where is it? Okay, here's a couple numbers here I want to go over with the Celtics and the Blazers. All right, Boston's covered 3 straight as an underdog. And they are 4-0 against the spread their last 4 on the road. And they're coming off that win at Denver on Sunday. They held the Nuggets to 8 points in the fourth quarter. Portland is 1-5 against the spread. Their last 6 as a home favorite of 4 or less. So as a short favorite, Portland has not fared well. Since the Blazers made that trade, they sent Gary Trent Jr. off to Toronto for Norman Powell. Now, Norman Powell's a good player. And Gary Trent Jr., you made comments saying, I'm glad I'm wanted with Toronto. And that says a lot there because he played when C.J. McCollum was out. Then McCollum came back and Gary Trent lost his minutes, which is fair, but still, you got to feel bad. You were playing well and you lost your minutes. Okay, so with that being said, the Blazers 5-4 since the trade with Toronto. Okay, so 5-4 doesn't seem that bad, but they beat Detroit twice, Orlando, Oklahoma City, and Toronto, all non-playoff teams. Who they lose to? The Heat, Clippers, the Jazz, and the Bucks, all playoff teams. So Portland against the good teams hasn't fared well. Against the bad teams they have, Boston, again, more on the upswing than the downswing. Brooklyn and Minnesota, they're going to play at 4 o'clock today at Target Center, in case you missed that. And this game postponed. Obviously, the issues in Minneapolis with the shooting the other day and the Wild, the Twins, the Timberwolves all coincidentally were playing at home last night. Now the Wild play in St. Paul, not far from Minneapolis. But Target Center and Target Field, if you're not from that area, I'm not from that area, but I've been to that area. Target Center, and you could see Target Center from Target Field. Like it's that close. And with everything going on in Minneapolis, with the unrest there, it was just smart to not play the games yesterday. So the Timberwolves and Nets are going to play without fans this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Kyrie Irving's not going to play for the Nets, and Minnesota obviously will be favored in this game against, or Brooklyn, will be favored in this game against Minnesota. There's no way Minnesota's ever going to be favored against Brooklyn. All right, let's look at Major League Baseball now, and we'll quickly scroll through Monday's scores. The Padres, they end up pulling away from the Pirates, so they cover the 1.5, and Yu Darvish on the road pitches well. The Marlins, they now have won a few in a row as they beat the Braves 5-3. So Atlanta lost that tough game to Philadelphia Sunday night, and then they were up 3-1 in the 8th. Marlins got 2 in the 8th, got 2 in the 10th to beat the Braves. The Brewers did nothing for 5 innings, then scored 6 in the Cubs. So Milwaukee's now won 3 straight against Chicago. And the Cubs, I don't want to say the Cubs are in trouble. That's unfair. It's early, but the Cubs have some issues. The Nationals end up beating the Cardinals 5-2. So Washington bounces back from the sweep at the hands of L.A. That's a good job there by the Nats. The Cardinals now, after winning 4 straight, they've lost 3 in a row. Wade Miley helps the Reds beat the Giants 3-0. Cincinnati's 2-game losing streak is done. San Francisco's 3-game winning streak, actually 4-game winning streak is done. They won the final game against San Diego and then swept Colorado and lose the first game to Cincinnati. Garrett Cole gives up a run in the first inning, then is great the rest of the way. Yankees get 4 hits, but they beat the Blue Jays in Dunedin 3-1. So Garrett Cole gets the run line win, and he gets a little revenge because Garrett Cole was on the, well, not on the losing end, but the Yankees lost his first start against Toronto to begin the season. I mentioned yesterday about Texas. They could be worth a look. Ended up plus 1.5 was the right way because they ended up losing to Tampa Bay 1-0. I mean, look at that pitcher's duel. Tyler Glasnow had, 14 strikeouts in that game for the Rays. Dane Dunning pitched well, but Texas could get no offense across. The Indians let you see that back and forth game. Led 2-0 against the White Sox. Chicago got 3 in the third. Cleveland tied it, then the White Sox won in walk-off fashion. So the Indians' 5-game winning streak is done. Granted, 4 wins came against Detroit, 1 to Kansas City. Now they're playing better competition here. It's the best team they played all season. They played Detroit and Kansas City their first 9-10 games. The Angels beat the Royals 10-3. And in this one, in case you missed it, and again, this didn't set the tone necessarily because they still scored 10 runs. But if you caught how the Angels scored the first 2 runs, 2 runners on base, fly ball to center, 1 out. Ball is caught. Runner tags up from second to third for the Angels. Ball, the throw hits him, like hits his feet. It kicks away. He goes to score. They go to throw the ball home. The ball gets away. 2-run score on a sac fly. So that kind of set the Royals back. Kansas City made it 4-3 in the 6th, but then LA got 3 in the 7th, 3 in the 10th, or 3 in the 9th rather, to win 10-3. So Brady Singer, he is winless in 2 starts. And Alex Cobb, he pitched well for the Angels yesterday. And they have no Anthony Rendon at all in the lineup. Angels a little beat up, but still playing well. How about Detroit? Plus 210 with Casey Mize on the mound. Look at that. 2 in the 2nd, 2 in the 3rd, 2 in the 5th. And that's enough to beat Zach Greinke and the Astros 6-2. Houston loses the final 2 to Oakland. Then they get blown out by the Tigers. And Detroit, off that 4-game sweep at the hands of Cleveland. What did I say yesterday? And I know Texas lost and they did lose 1-0. These teams, these road underdogs, these heavy road underdogs, off of getting swept, there's value in them because people look at them, oh, they suck. Detroit's not good. Texas isn't good. They're going to lose. Detroit destroyed Houston, and Texas was right there with Toronto. So even if you want to go plus 1.5 on that, I don't see why you can't take a shot with it. I mean, another team looking at it tonight will be Colorado against LA. I'll get to that in a second. Let me just finish this. Oakland and Arizona, the A's end up beating the Diamondbacks 9-5. Chris Bassett pitched well. Also, he pitched well because he wasn't opposite Zach Greinke, who he was in the first start, and he wasn't opposite Clayton Kershaw, who was the pitcher in the second start he had to face. Now he gets Madison Bumgarner, who was world class, but is not right now. Bumgarner has not pitched well this season. And the A's got 1 in the first, got 2 in the third, and they scored 9 runs. And Oakland, all of a sudden, now, after that terrible start, 0-6, they won that finale against the Dodgers in extra innings. They took 2 of 3 from Houston. They win at Arizona, who played well against the Reds this weekend. So Oakland's come back to life a little bit. Phillies and Mets washed out. Mariners, Orioles washed out. They're going to play a doubleheader today. Twins, Red Sox, due to the civil unrest, they're going to play today instead at Target Field. Now, let's look ahead to tonight. And San Diego, Pittsburgh will lead things off. Blake Snell, a heavy favorite. My God, 230 he's laying. But the Padres are 8-3. They're playing well. And they lost in extra innings to the Giants. Look, the schedule, San Diego's schedule has not been very demanding so far. Arizona, the first 4. San Francisco, who's better than we thought. Okay, I don't want to dog on San Francisco, and then Pittsburgh, but not exactly playing elite competition so far. The Mets and the Phillies, they're going to play 2 at Citi Field, and Chase Anderson and Taijuan Walker go in the first game. And again, the Mets, they play 5 games. The Nationals had the COVID stuff. The Mets have really had some issues trying to play these games. Philadelphia's at 6-3. Pablo Lopez takes the mound for the Marlins against Max Fried tonight. And Fried, who so far, he didn't even make it that far in his first start against Washington. He got hit in the leg by a line drive. So he's now facing the Marlins, and Pablo Lopez has been up and down as far as against the Braves. His numbers, he got lit up by them last year. But at home, he pitched well. Now he's just trying to get some offense, making his first road start of the season. Kyle Hendricks and Brandon Woodruff in Milwaukee. And you have the 2 stud pitchers of their respective pitching staffs going, and Kyle Hendricks at plus 130 is very interesting. And you kind of wonder, all right, are they telling you to take Milwaukee tonight? Woodruff is a quality pitcher, but Kyle Hendricks, they're plus 130 due to the Cubs' struggles. Cubs have lost 3 straight. It's kind of a stay-away game for me. Washington and St. Louis, they continue at Busch Stadium, and the 2, well, again, with Washington, you say who's the top pitchers, the Scherzer or Strasburg. You go back and forth on those, but Strasburg, obviously, an ace for Washington against Jack Flaherty, who so far the Cardinals are 2-0 his 2 starts against the Reds on opening day, and then against the Marlins he pitched well. But the Washington lineup is obviously better than the Miami lineup, so Flaherty will be tested today against the Nats, who picked up just their 2nd win of the season. Reds and Giants tonight from San Francisco. And I'll give you this number on Luis Castillo. Got a win against the Pirates last time out, was racked against the Cardinals in the opener, but the Reds were 0-4 in Luis Castillo's 4 starts as an underdog last season. So keep that in mind, even though this number could move. We'll see. Kevin Gausman has actually pitched very well for San Francisco. He's given up 1 earned run in each of his first 2 starts. For the Giants, they blew that big lead to Seattle in his first start. They beat San Diego in extra innings in his last start. So the Giants have not lost back-to-back games this year. We'll see how they do tonight after getting shut out by Cincinnati. Now, I mentioned about the taking these heavy road dogs after getting swept, and that's the case with Colorado tonight against LA. Trevor Bauer is laying 320. Christ, that's a lot that he's laying, Trevor Bauer. And Trevor Bauer, Cy Young winner from last year, making $40 million a year. But the Dodgers Dodgers swept the Nationals. Rockies got swept by the Giants. Colorado did lose 3 or 4 to the Dodgers. They won that opener and then lost the last 3. They hung in some of those games. But, even take a shot at Colorado plus 1.5 here. And the Rockies' offense didn't do much against the Giants' pitching staff. And they were, look, we know LA is the best team in baseball. But Colorado was getting they're like plus 110, plus 120 was. They're plus 270 against this LA team. A situation may set up where people may just want to go with the Dodgers on principle. I'm not too sure about that. American League, Red Sox and Twins, Jay Happ and Martin Perez on the mound. They were supposed to pitch yesterday. They're pitching today. The Twins off back-to-back losses to the Mariners, and Boston's won 6 straight. Boston was 0-3. Now they're 6-0, last 6. This is the night game tonight at Camden Yards, Seattle and Baltimore. Let me scroll down. We'll go to the first. Actually, I believe the first game is Sheffield and Means. The second game is Margavicius and Kramer, but still Baltimore favored in both those games. It's probably stay away games there. How about this? Hyunjin Ryu, a short favorite against Jameson Taillon of, I don't know if I say his name right, from the Yankees, former Pirate. But Ryu, who was underdog to Garrett Cole his first start of the season, now laying 110 to the Yankees. And the Yankees now off back-to-back wins. They're tough to trust, the Yankees, at times. I'm not saying take Toronto, but I feel like now you want to ride the Yankees after they just won 2 in a row, but long season. Texas and Tampa Bay. Now you wonder a couple things here at this game. One, you have an 8 total. 2 great pitching performances last night from Tyler Glasnow and from the Texas pitching staff, from Dane Dunning and also the relievers, because Tampa Bay had a lot of strikeouts last night. Now you have Kyle Gibson and Ryan Yarbrough. That maybe do the bats break out tonight after you had zeros pretty much all throughout last night? Perhaps. Kyle Gibson, he's so up and down. I mean, you never know what you get from him. He could have a good outing tonight against Tampa Bay. Angels and the Royals, Dylan Bundy and Danny Duffy. And Bundy has been good for the Angels, but now he's laying 130 against Kansas City. And the Royals off that loss last night. Angels are 7-3. Gotta give Joe Madden a lot of credit there. This is going to be a great pitching matchup. Shane Bieber, last year's Cy Young winner. Lucas Giolito going for the White Sox in Chicago. And Bieber and the Indians beat the White Sox twice in his 2 matchups last season. Giolito was 1-3 as an underdog last season. So kind of put all those numbers up there. But I do like Cleveland in that game. I think they get the win. And Bieber, you're getting him at a very cheap price. You don't see him that cheap normally. Detroit and Houston, Jake Odorizzion for the Astros, Matthew Boyd for Detroit. And you got to think the Astros would bounce back tonight after losing to Detroit. But still, I mean, the Tigers without Miguel Cabrera played pretty well last night. Got to give him credit there. The A's and the Diamondbacks continue their series this afternoon. Zach Gallen makes his first start of the season. He's Arizona's best pitcher, and he was out, or he has missed time because in spring training, it was a batting injury that he suffered. So that's why he's been out. And he will get his first start against Oakland. And that one basically a pick-em. Mets and Phillies, they play again. They play the doubleheader. I mean, you get Nolan Stroman in one of those starts is pretty strong. So check that one out as another pretty good game there. And the Mets will get some victories. So there you go. Anyway. So, want to remind you, as we go back, we circle back now, that you are eligible, or you can be, let me rephrase that, you can win a free week's worth of handicapper selections from any handicapper at VegasInsider.com if you give us a best bet for tonight. It's got to win, too. You can't just give us a best bet, it's a loser. Give us a best bet that's a winner. In any sport, it could be anything. It could be a quarter bet. It could be a half bet. It could be a first 5 innings bet. It could be any of that. It doesn't have to be a side or a total necessarily. NBA, NHL, baseball. But you have to be a subscriber to our channel at Vegas Insider. Also, you have to be registered on the site. You have to have a user ID, and that's free. You don't have to pay for that. So I'm not even asking you to pay anything. This is a free thing. Register, the big yellow button on the homepage. Click on register. Go to register now. Free membership. Fill in your information. Easy as that. So we know you have a user ID to get you these picks. And we will pick a winner coming up after the results and all of that and let you know tomorrow who that is and get in contact with you for those picks. So just put in, and by the way, you probably ask, where do we put it? You put it in the live chat. And that's where to do it. And if you don't win today, guess what? We'll do it again tomorrow. We'll do it again Thursday. We'll do it again Friday. So it's okay if you don't win today or if you didn't get in today, that's fine. But just letting you know for the future and for the rest of the week. Put in your best bet. Put in your name, your user ID on Vegas Insider, and make sure you're a subscriber to our YouTube channel at Vegas Insider. So with all that being said, I am Kevin Rogers. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you again tomorrow at noon Eastern right here on the Daily Insider on VegasInsider.com.